Hi, this video is to introduce you to or how review how to put matrices into the TI-84 plus graphing calculator and how to perform operations on that calculator. So here in this document, I've got three matrices defined. I've got A, B, and C. So if you remember in the previous video from Mrs. Poteet, matrices are usually referred to by a capital letter. So again, I've got three matrices. And so first we're going to look at how to enter these matrices in the calculator. And then we're going to look at how to perform these operations, how to perform addition, multiplication, and scalar multiplication in the calculator. Now, once we go over these, you should be able to do any of these in the calculator and any combination of them. So you could always be asked to apply a scalar multiplication to a matrix and then add. So first, let's talk about how to enter a matrix into the calculator. To do that, we have to know the dimensions of the matrix. And in this one here in matrix A, we can see that it has 3 rows and 2 columns, so it is a 3 by 2 matrix. So the matrix menu on the calculator is here above this x to the negative 1 key. We see that it's in blue. So that means we have to click second and then x to the negative 1. Now this brings up 3 submenus. First, names is what we'll use to get the matrix back out onto the main screen to perform operations. The math submenu, we don't need in Math 4. It'd be stuff that you take in, say, pre-calc or a linear algebra course in college. And then the edit menu, of course, is where we're going to enter the matrices. So let's go over to the edit menu, and I labeled them A, B, and C on my document to correspond to the calculator. On an assessment or maybe homework, they may not be labeled. You may have to make a note as to which one is matrix A, matrix B, and matrix C in your calculator. But since I label them that way, we'll go ahead and put matrix A into matrix A, B into B, and C into C. So as I said before, matrix A is a 3 by 2. And so all you have to do is type in the number and press enter, and it's going to take you to the next position, I guess you could say. So I press enter again, and it sizes the matrix for us. Now all we need to do is enter in our elements. So I have 3, 5, and as I press enter, it takes me across each row and then moves down to the next row. Now, the next row has a negative 1 in it. Make sure you're using the negative key on the calculator and not the minus key for that. It will give you an error when you go to use the matrix. Actually, I think it might do it when you press enter on that element because it's not going to understand what you're asking it to do. And we have 2, 9, and 8. So this is matrix A. Once you're finished with a matrix, what you always want to do is press second and quit. A lot of times, if you're trying to name a matrix and you're still in the edit menu, it's going to take you right back to the edit menu thinking you're trying to put a matrix within a matrix. And then it's going to give you an error because we can't do that. So using that method, what I want you to do is go ahead and pause the video and put in matrix B and matrix C in your calculator in the corresponding part. All right, as you can see, now I have all 3 matrices in. I have matrix A, which is a 3 by 2, matrix B, which is a 2 by 2, and matrix C, which is also a 3 by 2. So let's talk about how to perform these operations with them. The big part is getting the matrices entered into the calculator. The actual operations, entering the operations, is actually pretty easy. And to do this, what we're going to do is use this names submenu where when we used edit to enter them into the calculator. So this first operation asks me to take A plus C. So I'm going to take A, and then I'm going to type in plus, come back here to the matrix menu. I can either press the number 3 or highlight it and say A plus C. Now remember, to add 2 matrices or to subtract them, they have to be exactly the same size. The calculator is going to let you know if they're not. So I'm going to add, and here is my result. 7, 12, negative 6, 5, 18, 9. So I'm going to go ahead and record that here on my document. So the answer here It's going to be a 3 by 2 matrix because, again, we've got 3 rows, 2 columns. And so I'm going to have 7, 12, -6, 5, 18, and 9. Now remember, when adding and subtracting 2 matrices, all the processes and the reason the dimensions have to be the same is we're going to add and subtract the corresponding elements. So if they're not the same size or the same dimensions, what I'm going to run into is I'll go to look for a corresponding element and nothing's going to be there, and that causes a problem. Now, just to show you what the calculator is going to do, I know that matrix A is not the same size as matrix B. Let's ask it to add the two. All right, so we're going to say add matrix A and matrix B. It's not one of the questions on here, but I want to demonstrate what the calculator will do when it's not possible to add and subtract because the dimensions are not the same size. So if you ask the calculator to perform an operation with matrices and the dimensions do not meet the rule for that operation, like in this case, I asked to add the two and they were not the same size, you're always going to get this error. Error dimension mismatch, meaning whatever operation you ask me, the dimensions don't meet that rule. There's a mismatch between the dimensions. So here I asked it to add a 3 by 2 to a 2 by 2. Dimensions were not exactly the same, so it said dimension mismatch. All right. So let's go on to this second item here, A times B. All right, A times B. So I'm going to come back to matrix. Whoops, there we go. Let's try that again. Matrix, and I'm going to take matrix A, which is number 1, times matrix B, which is number 2. Whoops, somehow I ended up with a sign in there. Let's get rid of that. So I can come back and just highlight this thing I didn't want in there and press delete. There we go. Now we have matrix A times matrix B, what we wanted. I'll press enter and I get an answer for it. All right. So it turns out that matrix A times matrix B is also a 3 by 2. So -1, 23, 4, 7, -10, and 41. And so that's our answer to matrix A times B. Now again, when we're multiplying matrices, remember that the number of columns in the first matrix has to be equal to the number of rows in the second matrix. And so that is, when I look at A here was a 3 by 2, and B was a 2 by 2. All right. So that means that these inner dimensions have to be the same to be able to multiply. If for some reason you ask it to perform a multiplication and that's not true, you're going to get that dimension mismatch error. For instance, if I asked it to multiply B times A, so let's say B times A, let's say I reverse it. Now in real numbers, we know that this will always work. 2 times 3 will always be equal to 3 times 2. That's not true for matrix multiplication. And again, I get a dimension mismatch. Because when I reverse these, I'd have a 2 in the middle, but then I'd have a 3. So since those inner dimensions don't match, it can't be done. And we get this dimension mismatch error. So we're going to get rid of that. And let's talk about scalar multiplication. All right. All scalar multiplication is basically taking, like if you were to take an image and put it on a photocopier and ask it to increase it, in this case, twice the size. And so we're just going to scale all of our entries or elements in the matrix. So all I have to do here is take 2 times, and then I'm going to go back into matrices and pick matrix C. And it gives me my answer. It's just multiplied all the elements by 2. So here I'd have 8, a badly drawn 8, -14, -10, 6, 18, and 2. And that's all there is to entering matrices into the TI-84 Plus and then performing operations.